Hi, welcome to Moving Forward with Gail Suzanne. I am so happy today to have a wonderful young man as my guest, Mr. Nick Goudsmith.
Yes.
I'm terrible. My last
Perfect.
name was awful. So Nick, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nick is the son of a wonderful woman that I went to college with. And she's in the audience there. Hi, Paula. Hi, Mom. And today I want to talk about Nick in his book, because Nick wrote this book called Dear Vanity. And I've read it over the last couple of weeks, and I must say, Nick, I'm so impressed with you.
Thank you.
I'm like amazingly impressed.
Thank you very much.
You're 18 years old,
Correct.
going on 60. You're an old soul. So tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay. Yeah, so Dear Vanity is a fictional coming-of-age novel set in 20th century Ireland on the fictitious island of Trinity. It is following the narrative of a young boy named Jordan who grows up in sort of a complex family dynamic and has some issues with identity as a child. And that sort of ties into that family dynamic. But later in his life, he ventures overseas to find himself, sort of find his purpose. And I don't want to give too much away towards the end of the book. But
leave the suspense.
Exactly. But yeah, that's sort of the gist of it. And he ends up returning to his homeland and sort of has learned a little bit more about himself over the years.
Okay. So it's kind of an introspection
Right.
of him and coming of age.
Right.
When did you get the idea for a book?
This was back in August of 2018 is when I started writing it. We took a family trip, my mother, brother, and I, to Colorado. And it sounds kind of cliche out in the mountains, I thought about it. But
it doesn't at all.
It was on a hike that I was on alone, just you know, thinking about, I've always loved to write, but I had never really had an idea for a true novel, more just shorter pieces. And then a framework came to me during that hike, which I played with over the next few weeks, and eventually it evolved into Dear Vanity.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was the whole premise of the book, was it something that you kind of had on the back of your mind, but on that trip you're like, I'm just going to do this? Or
Sort of, and it's funny you ask, because a lot of close friends and family, they ask me if this is like a personal reflection, if this
Right.
mirrors my life, and it doesn't. There
Oh,
are
it
a lot
doesn't
of,
at all.
No, I mean, not much. There are a lot of downcast themes, so, you know, people close to me are like, is this stuff that's happened to you? And I say,
Yeah,
don't
really,
worry,
and they're
right?
like, oh,
Exactly.
God, we gotta keep
They're a
an
little
eye on 'em,
concerned.
and-
Right,
Wow.
but no, it's more observations of themes that I've witnessed over 18 years that I wanted to tie into my writing. So it's not personal experiences, but more so observations.
Interesting, interesting. And that's pretty amazing for you to, because a lot of times people will write their stories based on their own
Right.
experiences and things they've gone through. I think it's harder
Yep.
to write based on observation.
Right. Thank you. Well,
It is. No, it's. I mean,
it
that's
definitely-
quite. I'm just going to put this back here so we can all see it, and I don't get it all full of
Yeah.
my fingerprints. At 18 years old, for you to write a story, to actually publish it, is astonishing. So tell me about that process for you a little bit. Like, were you afraid? Because most people have these thoughts. They have, I'm afraid I'm not going to finish. I'm afraid no one will like it. I'm afraid that it's not going to be a success. I'm afraid that I'm procrastinate too much.
Right.
I'm afraid my grammar's off. I'm afraid, all these things. So what are some of the challenges you came up with, or any of them, and how did you kind of break through?
Yeah, definitely. I think that everyone goes through that phase where they hesitate and they say, is this something worth sharing and worth writing? But at the end of the day, in my eyes, I see it as, the best writers in the world, the Stephen Kings and the Hemingways, they're going to have that moment too, right? And I'm not saying I'm anywhere near that level, but I think at some point Stephen King in his life wrote down, composed a piece, and then said, is this even worth my time? Is it worth the reader's time? And still went through with it. So, you got to start somewhere. And when I sat down and wrote this, I was passionate about the idea, and I just kind of ran with it. And there were definitely moments where I hesitated, or took a few days off and said maybe I shouldn't be pursuing this. But it was a labor of love, and I ended up is the only thing on my mind. By the time I finished that last chapter, I said I want to share this.
Yeah.
So,
How long did it take you?
9 months of writing.
9 months.
Roughly.
And you were going to college at the same time.
I was in high school at the time.
Oh, jeez.
And just started my first semester at college this past fall.
Wow. Your writing is exquisite. It
Thank you so
flows
much.
beautifully. Some of the words, and I'm like, I don't even know what this word means. I had to look, only a few.
Right,
but
right.
I mean, your writing style is just so, it just flows so beautifully. It's eloquent.
Thank you
it's
so
it's
much.
for a young man that it just blows my mind when I was reading it
appreciate that.
because I felt it. I'm kind of a book snob in a way. It's not awful, but I am, and certain very few books really move me, and your book really moved me.
Thank you so much. That's exactly what I would hope.
Yeah.
That's the mission.
the ones that you could tell it's authentic and it's honest and it's very real.
Thank you.
And I can see how people would think that was from your
Right.
own life, because the only time you can really feel something is when
Exactly.
you go through it. So you have such a keen sense of, that perception of what other people go
Right.
through, and that's a gift.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I mean that wholeheartedly. I
Thank you.
really do.
That's all I could ask for from
Yeah.
a reader, right? I mean,
So did it flow for you? Because a lot of people have a hard time with the flow. They have a hard time with getting stuck in that a paragraph or a sentence that they just can't find the right words, or it just doesn't sound right, and they agonize over it for days
Yeah.
and weeks, and they can't continue on unless they finish
Right,
that
right.
paragraph or whatever. Like, did you have any issues like that where you're like, oh my goodness, I can't think of the right phrase, the right word, and how did you kind of get through it?
right, countless issues like that, right? I mean, there's days when you sit down and you're able to crank out 10 pages in 10 minutes, and you just, it's one of those days. And then there's others where, like you said, one phrase will keep you stuck for 2 hours, and you can't seem to progress. So I think that no matter what, my baseline goal was just to write every single day, whether that be 1 word or 10 pages, because I think when you start taking a break from that, falling out of that routine, that's when your composition takes a nosedive.
It's like a diet.
It is, right? I know, you do have
That
to
one
be,
cookie, and then
you do have to be a stickler with it. So yeah, I think that regardless of how much you write, it's a matter of writing every single day, just putting pen to paper for 5 minutes or 5 hours.
Okay, so what would happen when you get stuck?
Um,
How did you teach yourself to break through it?
Right. I think, let's see, stepping away certainly was, the best for me. Not for a whole day, but just being able to allow myself a break, to not get too caught up on 1 word or 1 phrase, going and, pursuing some other outlets of mine. Love playing soccer, love hanging out with my buddies. So, I think it's just you got to find that balance. And you're a coach, my mom's a coach, so I've always been, taught that as a kid.
Coached.
I've been raised in that environment where I'm able to not get hung up on 1 issue and let that take over my day. So that's how I was able to, kind of balance my schedule. I was able to step away from it.
That's very mature.
Thank you.
To be able to do that.
Thank you.
Because
Well, credit to my
when I was
mom.
there, I was 50, how old was I? 49 when I wrote my first book. And there were times where I was just so stuck, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I've got to either go a different way home from work or watch a
Right.
different kind of movie, like get
The
my
little
mind somewhere out of the box.
Yes.
Think a different way, because my same old way of thinking just kept me
You get stuck
like on
there.
that hamster wheel.
Right.
So something for me that really helped was just doing something different, and
I'm
like
with
your
you.
soccer and with your buddies or whatever,
Right.
just being able to focus on something else. And then when you come back, it's like, oh my God, that
Exactly.
just
Then it
happened
clicks
to
a
me.
little bit more.
Yes.
Right.
Isn't that
Yeah, I'm
awesome?
with
So
you.
you understand that for sure.
Absolutely.
So so you were in high school when you wrote this. Now, is this going to be like a series of books that you want to do, or like what other types of things do you have in your head that you really want to
Right.
conquer
Um,
at your ripe old age of 18. I still can't believe you're 18 in the way you write.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't think specifically Dear Vanity will be a series. I think the way I concluded this one is up to interpretation, and I kind of like to leave it that way. But I do love writing fiction. That's my passion. So, step 2 is in the works. Novel number 2, I have a foundation for, and then in the meantime, in my first semester of college, I've been working on some shorter nonfiction pieces. So I love writing about the education system or about some of my experience as a kid. So although I love writing about observations in fiction, I think that nonfiction is powerful as well because I can write about some of what I've experienced in my life. So I think that's been the bridge that I've used between novels, but I'm ready to get started on number 2.
Wow. What do you want readers to know about you, or what do you want them to get out of your books? Not just this one, the ones that you're like, okay, what did you say you had school?
About the education system, right.
Education system, your childhood.
Right.
Like, what is it that you want the reader to walk away with?
I want them to be able to not only interpret my writing in many ways, but be able to then relate that to real life, because I think a lot of people take the word fiction and they hold that to a cue, and they don't think that it can be related to their own life,
Right.
whereas I feel like fiction is, that evolves from real life 100% of the time. So like I said, my real life had so much to do with the writing of this novel. So I hope that the messages and the themes that come up in my writing, people are able to then, see that come to fruition in their own life and relate to that.
So it's more of inspirational, that you really want to inspire them?
Right.
Do you want to motivate them to change or to think a different way or to, appreciate their lives? Like,
I wouldn't say change. I would just want them to have the opportunity to change. I don't want to, force something down their throat, like, give them a specific guideline as to how to live, but I hope that they see a message in Dear Vanity or they see a message in my other pieces, and they're able to then interpret that as they may in their circumstances.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What did you learn the most about yourself writing this story?
That I could do it. I mean, I never thought I'd actually finish when I first put pen to paper.
Really?
But 173 pages later, there it was. So, I mean, I think that's what a lot of people struggle with is, the end, when they
Yes.
really just need to focus on the beginning and work page by page. And I was caught up with it in the process too. I was just excited to, some days I was excited to see the end. Some days I was so caught up, in the writing that gave me joy. But I think the fact that I can actually do that, and that so many people can do that who maybe struggle to actually picture themselves finishing a novel.
Such a huge message to people.
Right.
I met you just now. I talked to you on the phone. I'm just so proud of you.
Thank you so
I am
much.
so proud
Thank you.
of your accomplishment, because I know the blood, sweat, and tears that
Right.
go into
Yeah,
it.
you've done it yourself. I know.
Yeah, I did too. And the second one was a lot easier than the first. The
That's
first
good to
one was
hear.
like,
You're right, that's good to hear.
I remember specifically a moment when I was about 80-90% done with my first book, and the thought came to me. I'm like, oh my God, I could actually do this.
Right.
I could actually.
Right.
I'm like, and it took me 3 years to write mine, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what if nobody likes it? What? I'm not a famous author. I'm not. Like, all these fears came to me, and it paralyzed me for 6 months.
Wow.
So and then somebody coached me. I was going through coaching class, and somebody coached me, and they're like, "What's your motive?" And I'm like, "It's to help people." All right, that's what you go with. Doesn't matter all the other stuff, the effects,
Right.
of the success level, though, whatever. It doesn't matter. Your heart and your motive are pure. Go for it.
Absolutely.
So, getting stuck is
Right.
It's definitely a key. And the thing that I really believe, and I believe with your book and your books, is that the world really needs to hear your voice and to hear what you have to say.
Thank you.
No, I believe
That's one of the best compliments I've ever gotten.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I was like mesmerized by your writing.
Thank
That
you.
does not happen to me very often. And God's the truth. You know, I'm telling the
Right.
truth. It does not happen because it was so eloquent.
Thank you.
So I had you on here because I am a fan.
Thank you.
And I just want people to read your story and to get swept away in what you wrote. And I think your courage and your insight for a young man is pretty. Have you always been like? Were you like a 6-year-old, like insightful?
Right.
I mean,
I don't know. I think that that came over the years, and this is what I've had as feedback from people, which I really appreciate. But you know, I never held myself to that standard. But as soon as this came out, I was able to
that's
you know
why
hear
it's a
that from
gift.
some people.
That's why it's
Thank
a gift.
you so much.
It's who you are, and this is what you were meant to do.
Thank
it's,
you.
it's like very clear.
Thank you.
Very clear.
Yeah, that's my goal.
So, are you afraid, do you think, of putting yourself out there in your book, like you?
I mean, yeah, I think with all art or any creative pursuit, there is like a vulnerable aspect of that because it's your voice. You know, but like I said earlier, it's up to interpretation. You know, people can take it one way and they could take it the other. But I mean, if you're proud of what you put out there, I could get one person that tells me they enjoy it and 999 that say they didn't really love it. And that's
You'd
cool
still
to me.
be happy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, most people are just the opposite. You get 999 that are like, I love it.
Right.
And that one that's it.
Yeah.
And then you get a lot of people focus on that one. So, you know, kudos to you.
Thank you.
How was it when you first received the actual tangible book in your hand, the actual printed copy?
One of the best days of my life. That was an amazing moment. I was at school. I, you know, ran over to the mail room, got the first copy, sprinted back, locked myself in my room, and just like held it in my hands for 5 minutes and flipped through and got the book smell and all that. I just, yeah, never, you know, like I said, you know, I never thought that this would actually become the final copy. And once I finally had it, you know, it was a weight off my shoulders. I was like, I really did it.
You did it.
And that was an awesome moment.
When did you publish?
This was late October.
Late October.
Yes.
And you went through a publishing company.
I did,
So
yes.
tell me a little bit about that experience, how
Yeah.
how you found them, how it worked
Right.
out for you.
Yeah, so after I had a small circle of friends and family read this, get some feedback, do some editing, I decided I was ready to start reaching out. And I learned right off the bat that publishing is a pretty tricky industry. It's hard to find a trustworthy agency or company that will really, you know, guide you through it, especially as a first-time author and, you know, first time going through that process. But Mindster Media, they're based out of New Hampshire. I ended up teaming up with them, and I had a really awesome representative. You know, and they have a really friendly team who really hold your hand through that, which I needed again as a first-time author. And so it was frustrating. It took about 4.5 months to publish, which really isn't anything in the publishing world. It can be a lot longer for traditional publishing,
Okay.
but you know, every edit you have to make and every change that they have in the manuscript, it feels like a huge setback.
So they did all of the editing also, as well as, okay.
They did, after I had finished my
Because a lot of them were
manuscript.
different. Some of them just publish, other, so
right.
they did
and
the
it's
whole.
something that you hold
Yep.
so close for so long that,
Right.
it's like as soon as
They're
they change
hacking it
a
up.
punctuation mark,
Yeah.
you're like, a little skeptical. So,
Yeah.
right. But they were great, and I'm happy with the way it turned out.
So how does that work now that you have that? Is it like a cut that you get, a cut that they get, or is it like they all work differently?
Yep. So they help with the PR a little bit, and then they do get, I think, 40%. And so I do get a good cut for publishing, but again, I don't have an agent yet. I'm not traditionally published, so that'd be the end goal, and this is hopefully a stepping stone to that, to getting an
Right.
agent, to having a career in writing. Is
Well,
the goal.
also you can market it yourself.
Right. I need your guidance there.
Yeah, you pound the pavement, but it definitely works,
Okay.
and it's something that the people get to know you
Right.
rather than through the publishing,
Exactly.
you know. But it's like what's that, one half dozen of the other, because the publishers help you reach an audience that you never would have reached
Exactly.
had it been just you on your own. So you know, there's
It's give and
pros
take
and
there, right.
pros and cons for everything.
Right.
So your next book is in your thought process. Now you live. Wait, I want to go. You live in Utah.
I do.
It's probably one of the most gorgeous places in the
Beautiful.
U.S.
Beautiful. Yeah,
And
I'm
that's
loving
you
it.
grow in a school there, and this is your first year
Yes.
in college.
Yep, just finished up my first semester there. Absolutely loving it out there. It's a whole different world than it is here. And, you know, I miss the East Coast, but definitely an awesome experience to spread my wings a little bit.
Wow. And what school do you go to?
University of Utah.
Okay.
Studying
Excellent.
English there.
You're studying English there. So this is your passion, to be a full-time writer.
This is.
How are you with speaking?
Not,
You're doing a great job
Thank
today.
you, thank you.
Outstanding.
I wouldn't say it's
But
my
is this
strong
something
suit.
that you might want to? Because let me just throw out there:
Mm-hmm.
when you publish a book and when it's beloved and you're starting to get momentum,
Mm-hmm.
the doors for you that can open are amazing. I would not be sitting here in this cable TV show had it not been for my
Mm-hmm. Right.
book. You can get speaking opportunities. You can be keynote speaker. You can lead workshops. You could teach classes. There's so much in your young life. You have your whole world ahead of you, but there is so much you can do because your book sets you apart and it makes you an expert in your field, whether it be fantasy, fiction, sci-fi, whatever it is. So this can really take you to wherever you want to go.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, it is a little more vulnerable to be public speaking versus when I'm sitting at my desk, you know, alone in my
Well,
room,
yeah.
being able to, you know, behind the paper. But yeah, I think that if those doors open, I would welcome that because, you know, I could definitely use that as to build a platform, and that is an exciting opportunity. But no, I've never been very well versed at public speaking. It's not my favorite thing.
Well, you are, because
Thank
you're
you.
right here and you've
Thank
been
you.
talking, it's almost a half an hour and you're doing wonderfly.
Thank you.
You know, and it's just sharing your heart most
Right.
of the time. All it is. You know, you can get newspaper articles written about you, go on podcasts, go on, you know, so many different avenues that you can take it.
Right.
And, you know, you have a wonderful kind of silent confidence for such a young person,
Thank
which is wonderful. And you speak you're very well spoken, I should say.
Thank
You're
you
very
very much.
eloquent. Just you actually speak the way you write. There's a lot of
Thank you.
You know, a lot of similarities there, which is awesome. It can take you wherever. So if you had a minute to tell people, young people out there, old people, middle people, whatever,
Yeah.
how they should go about encouraging themselves or just helping get into a mindset where they can write and finish it. What would your advice be?
Yeah,
to them?
I mean, I think that everyone has a voice regardless of age or experience. I think 10 to 95, you know, middle school to retirement, you know, I think everyone has the capacity to write, and I think everyone who has a passion for it should pursue that. Because, like I said, I mean, I never envisioned myself having an actual published book, and here we are. So I think regardless of your experience level, pursue it. I mean, this is the medium to be able to, you know, tell your story, share your voice, and you never know where this could lead you, right? I mean, like I have much more to explore, but it never would have been able to meet you and come on this show. Never would have been able to spread that to some of my writing teachers at school had I not gone through with my plan to write and then published.
Yeah. So tell folks at home how they can get in touch with you, how they can buy your book.
Okay.
If you have a website information, email,
Yeah.
you can hold your book.
Definitely.
So do a little pitch.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
You got
Dear
40
Vanity.
seconds.
Okay, Dear Vanity. You can find me online, www.nicholasHoutsmith.com. Last name is Goudasmith. SMIT. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn at Nicholas Houtsmit. It's on global retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Powell's, Books A Million.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for having me
on.
on.
Let me close up now. Thank you so much. Didn't that
Thank
go by
you.
fast?
That did,
See
yeah,
that?
that wasn't so hard.
Well, signing off. We'll see you next time. This is Gail Suzanne moving forward, and get a copy of his book. Okay, talk to you next time. Bye-bye.